Welcome to Get Real America.
Good morning. I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Welcome. It is Thursday. We're 5 days away from Election Day.
Ooh, boy, are we.
Man, oh man. And we've got a lot to talk about along those lines as well. If you have early voted, then, well, I hope you did it the right way.
I know, right? I hope you don't change your mind. I think, the governor debate didn't even happen until after early voting had already started, which I think is a disservice to people.
Exactly.
Also, people that voted for Fetterman early, I'm sure that was a big disappointment once they saw that debate.
Oh, yeah. And of course, the once again, the news media living down to its reputation of turning himself into pretzels, explaining what a great job Fetterman did and how courageous he was to do this, and that Dr. Oz should be ashamed of himself for being such a bully, and that it was Joyless Behar on the pew actually said that Dr. Oz was bullying him. He never brought up any of his. He just simply made statements. He did not express any animosity toward Fetterman whatsoever.
Nope, they talked about policy and what they were going to do, and that's what you should do in a debate.
Exactly, and Fetterman tried to figure out where he was.
Yes. Well, I think Mehmet Oz is up 6 points, and I do believe the small town that Fetterman was the mayor of, I do believe that local newspaper actually endorsed Mehmet Oz. So
that ought to tell you a lot.
Speaks volumes to what's going on in Pennsylvania. I do hear that they have a very high turnout right now, but their Secretary of State is saying don't expect results on the day of the election, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. How do we have more technology than we've ever had, and yet these elections are taking longer to figure out than ever?
How does Florida get theirs done by 9:30 and we all find out who won and goes to bed?
Hey, that's the way it should be. I stayed up 2020 election. I was up till like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was like, really? This is ridiculous. Yes. And anyways, we don't need to go into that.
Never in favor of this computer voting in the first place, and now it has caused all sorts of consternation, as I knew it would be manipulated the way they've done it in the last 2, 3, 4, 10 years.
100% agree, Bill. Going back to local Savannah news, I wanted to, yesterday we talked a little bit about the city council meeting and just how horrendous it was.
Yeah, if you didn't join us then, it is unbelievable that you go to a city council meeting and they don't get to city business necessarily until about 1 hour in, because they're recognizing all these different groups, and that's fine to do that, but don't take an hour of people's time when you need to get down to city business. Maybe they don't have any place else to go, but other people do.
Absolutely. They have kids that it's during the week, people got to put their kids to bed. There's a lot of stuff going on for people. So, Mayor Van Johnson did come out and he did have some discussion around this and gave, his thoughts around how that city council meeting went.
Yeah. And it's interesting that he finally,
from Calhoun Square, which, if approved, will ultimately lead, in my mind, to a large, inclusive public engagement process to determine a new permanent name for the square. There is a defined process by which public assets are named and renamed, and I believe we must respect that process and the rights of stakeholders in that process. I do believe that in public assets, the public assets belong to everybody. And so this creates an opportunity to start that dialogue in 2022, as it should. As gratified as I was, as happy as I was, as relieved as I was that our residents were generally respectful in their expression of their views about this very emotional issue, I was disappointed again that our meeting was marred by the actions of members of this city council. We are 9 individual members with our own personalities, with our own styles, but each of us are duly elected by the people of the city of Savannah. And although it's not always fair, we are held to a different standard. We are held to a higher standard. And unfortunately, some of us have not lived up to that standard. The persistent name calling, the baseless accusations, the rude behavior, the weekly soap opera, both inside and outside of these council chambers, before, during, in between, and after council meetings is not what I believe that citizens of this city sent us to City Hall to do. In my 19 years of elected service, I have never seen anything like it. 2 sustained ethical violations. The removal of a council officer. The mean and pathetic name calling and accusations on social media. The bullying, the violent outburst in council meeting. The disrespect of Team Savannah members. The threats. This is not who we are, or at least who we should be, and in my mind, it is despicable. Now, let's be clear, because people ask, what are you going to do about this? I am not the parent of council. I am not the principal of council. I do not have the ability to singularly sanction or reprimand any member of council, and I should not have to. These are grown folks. My job is to make sure that the business of the city of Savannah is conducted. So even amid some of these childish occurrences, even through some of these very turbulent exchanges, you will see me sitting here, staying focused, pressing through to make sure that job one is done, making sure that the business of this city is conducted. And every single day, amid the bullying, amid the attacks, amid the narcissism, amid the threats, the business of this city gets done by this council.
Sure is.
Well, so Bill, something that
Or not.
right. Well, I wonder, what is the responsibility of the mayor in these types of situations? He is kind of the head of the city council, and also he did not name names, which as people that misbehave, I do think that they need to be named. I do think that this should be public record of the behavior that has been happening, because anyone that doesn't attend these meetings, they're not aware of who these people are. They're not sure what he's talking about. I mean, they could go back and see the video, but there is a lot of perspective you cannot see from the cameras that they utilize. You cannot see her actions when she stands up. You can't see, how threatening she is towards, Purdie. And I don't think that Purdie has behaved well either, but I do think that she has been an aggressor on the city council. Keisha Carter Gibbs. Is it
Sheila Gibson Carter?
Oh my gosh, I don't know why I cannot get that right, but she is an antagonist on this board, and I think that there should be something that could be done, because she is creating a toxic work environment for a lot of the people that sit on that board. And how awkward is it to have someone yell and shout at you?
Yeah, Keisha Gibson Carter. I said Sheila, but it's Keisha Gibson Carter.
Between Bill and I, we get it right.
This is the thing that is so. It reminds me. Remember, we've always quoted Abraham Lincoln, who had so many great observations and that have become proverbial, proverbs. One of them is, if you want to see a person's true character, give them power. And Keisha Gibson Carter was one of the nicest people that I ever met. Many times in my former morning radio show here, I interviewed her when she was the head of the Rape Crisis Center, and she did a great job. She was always, very courteous. She came in and we had great interviews. And for her to behave the way she's behaving now, it seems to me that they seem to be like two different people. I don't recognize this person.
That's unfortunate, Bill, because this has been going on for months. And Van Johnson even called it a soap opera. And when I left that night, I was like, I felt like I just went to a reality TV show or like Jerry Springer. It was just, it was crazy to me. So
Yeah, calling names back and forth with Curtis Pertee, who represents the 6th district, the south side of Savannah, and Keisha Gibson Carter, who is alderman at large, which means she represents the entire community. It's not conducive to having good business and getting the business done of the city that needs to be taken care of. And worried about whether or not we're going to rename Calhoun Square or anything else, to me is just it is time that is wasted. And there are processes to go through on renaming the square, and they are trying to leapfrog some of those and not go through the proper procedures that need to be done to rename the square. Anybody that's losing sleep over the fact that we have a Confederate monument up, or that we need to rename a square because of some guy that has been dead for 150 years, seems to me to be not at the top of the priority list.
no, and I think that's the other thing. Once you start to see them, decide that they can just rename whatever they want, I think that you end up really doing some damage to the culture of Savannah and
Exactly.
how it was founded, and the history here. And that's why people come here, Bill. I will tell you, coming from the West Coast, we don't have this type of history. And the Revolutionary War and all of that was here, the Civil War, all of that, it's so special, the history here. And the fact that we just want to take down things and rename things, and we want to move on, I just don't understand. And some of the things that people were saying, I don't understand how someone can say that walking in Calhoun Square is traumatic for them. I don't understand that. That was some of the stuff that we heard at that city council meeting, and Bill, I don't get it. I don't know how that could be traumatizing. You weren't a slave. You never, I mean, they're saying that there are bodies built underneath Calhoun Square. There's a possibility there might be, but there was no mass grave.
No.
I mean, I don't know, Bill.
Well, the worst part is that they make this stuff up, and they start telling these stories, and the stories take on a life of their own, and the story becomes the reality. The myth becomes the legend, and so on and so forth. And when you find out the real story, sometimes you're really disappointed.
Yes.
Because I remember when my wife and I were going through Alcatraz a few years ago, and we were out visiting our daughter-in-law is from California, and we were out there visiting San Francisco before it really got bad. But and it's to see that beautiful city ruined by the left-wing loons is just disgusting. But we were out at Alcatraz, and the gentleman who was giving us the tour said, not a lot happened here. It was most of the stuff at Alcatraz. There were a couple. There was one famous breakout, and we never found the guys who did. They think that most of them, died
Drowned.
or drowned. That water is awfully cold. As Mark Twain once famously said, the coldest winter I ever spent was summer in San Francisco.
It is so cold there.
It is
unbelievably cold. I was like,
I
went in summer.
I remember going out to I was a Kiwanis advisor. We were at an International Key Club convention, and we were out there, and I told the kids the day before, I said, now, we're going out on the bay tomorrow. We didn't go to Alcatraz. We passed by. I said, we're going out on the bay tomorrow. Do not wear your Bermuda shorts, okay? And bring a jacket or something along those lines. A lot of them didn't listen and paid the price.
It was so
it
cold.
is cold, and that water will freeze you in just a few minutes. So, but other than that, said life was pretty normal at Alcatraz. All these stories that you heard about Al Capone and everything else. That most of the time, everything was just a normal day. Not much happened there, but the legends live on.
But I will say, if you have not been to Alcatraz, you should go. It's totally worth the trip.
Absolutely.
Just don't stay too long in San Francisco.
Yeah, or wait till an American gets elected and they clean up the place. Meanwhile, coming up next,
we are going to be talking about what's going on with the monkeys, Bill.
Yeah, what is all this monkey business in Florida? You ain't gonna like it. That's next.
I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
I admired Herschel from the beginning. Herschel has always been challenged about doing things that people thought he wasn't capable of doing. He wants to be the best, and he has striven to do that, disciplined himself to do that, falls sometimes along the way, but he gets back up, and with his incredible drive and self-discipline, he has achieved mighty things. He's a real patriot of this country. He loves the United States of America. He also is realistic that it can be better. He is not a, quote, politician. There is a need in this country. There is need in this state for somebody like Herschel. Knowing him, the character that he has, he will make a great United States Senator.
Say no to T-SPLOS.
That's right, no.
The last 3 years, Georgia's been tested in ways we could never imagine. And it fell to Governor Brian Kemp to successfully lead us during these troubling times. Georgia is still first in the nation for business. Our unemployment rate is the lowest in state history. Today, people come to Georgia to succeed, start a business, raise a family. Kemp has always backed the blue, stopping the radical left from defunding local police. He passed a tough new election integrity bill that, as the governor likes to say, made it easy to vote and hard to cheat. And while some during COVID-19 shut down their economy, Kemp kept our schools and businesses open while keeping Georgians safe. A long list of accomplishments. Fighting human trafficking, increasing teacher pay, greater access to quality health care. A governor who works for Georgians. All of us. Governor Brian Kemp.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your governor speaking.
Today's training evolution, dogfighting, taking on the corporate media.
The rules of engagement are as follows. Number 1, don't fire unless fired upon, but when they fire, you fire back with overwhelming force. Does it say that in the bill? I'm asking you to tell me what's in the bill. Number 2, never ever back down from a fight.
If I could complete the question, though.
So you're going to give a speech or ask a question? Number 3, don't accept their narrative. It's wrong. It's a fake narrative. I just disabused you of the narrative, and you don't care about the facts. It's why people don't trust people like you, because you peddle false narratives. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
What's gonna
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Happy Thursday. We're glad you're here.
Yes, and I mean, I bet you the monkeys wish we were there saving them, Bill.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I had a chance to interview Congresswoman Nancy Mace. I had several opportunities to do that. And she found out that right off the coast of South Carolina here, there is an island that's uninhabited by humans, but the shoreline is lined with no trespassing signs. It is a monkey research lab that is run by who else?
Oh, Tony Fauci.
Tony Fauci. Yeah.
Who could forget? He's always involved in something nefarious, isn't he?
What a surprise. The island's owned by the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. When Nancy found out about it, she hit the roof. But it's called the Charles River Laboratories, the home of U.S. government breeding program for rhesus monkeys, many of whom were destined to be for invasive and painful medical experiments. And said every year around 500 of the island's monkeys are trapped and shipped to medical labs where they are subjected to batteries of extraordinarily painful experiments and infected with the most deadly and dangerous diseases known to man, according to documents that were part of an investigation. And it maintains a colony of monkeys for the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, or NIAID, division of the National Institutes of Health, the good old NIH, and a federal agency that also conducts numerous experiments involving animal tests. NIAID was also funded various maximum pain experiments on primates where pain relief is withheld, such as infecting the monkeys with Ebola and other hemorrhagic viruses. exploring them, exposing them to tuberculosis, including sepsis, according to the researchers. This is disgusting. And speaking of disgusting, this is something else that's happening right under our nose, and we can thank once again our friends from China.
The country's very divided, but there's one thing I'm pretty confident we can all agree on. After COVID, we shouldn't be performing crazy medical experiments on animals, especially in our own country, which is why we're pretty concerned to find out that a big Chinese lab, Joyn Labs, just bought more than 1,400 acres of land in Levy County, Florida, to conduct biological experiments on monkeys. So, what the hell is going on here? Did we not learn anything in 2020? Remember, earlier this year, when a bunch of monkeys escaped on their way from JFK Airport to a CDC quarantine facility?
So I go over to check to see, check the cats out, and I'm sticking my finger in because I see the fur. It pops up, and I'm getting really close to it, and here's some monkey, and it's like it doing a hissing noise. So I backed away, and I told the guy that they were not cats, they were monkeys.
Yeah, that woman got pink eye from that. I can only imagine what other diseases people in Florida could get if these monkeys escape again. Florida man can't handle this much more. Gators, Cat 5 hurricanes, infected monkeys terrorizing the Everglades is too much. So we've reached out to Joyn Labs to ask, what kind of experiments are you going to be performing on monkeys? And surprise, surprise, no answer. But we also reached out to the governor and the county. And finally, we reached out to PETA to find out just why Chinese labs are monkeying around in South Florida. Dr. Lisa Jones-Engel is a senior advisor to PETA and a primate scientist. Doctor, what the heck are they doing to these monkeys?
Oh, thank you. This is a violent and dangerous and very secretive industry. And actually, there's a new player now. And you're right, everyone has to recognize that this is a significant risk. A risk to the monkeys, who never make it out of these experiments or this industry alive. A risk to the Florida residents. A risk to the entire country. Think about this. During the COVID pandemic, 100,000 monkeys were pulled out of the wild in Asia. They were pulled from these filthy, disease-ridden monkey farms there. They were packed up in these crates, stuck in the bellies of planes, flown to the U.S. Untold numbers arrived diseased or dead. This is the horror of the monkey experiment industry. The potential for zoonotic diseases to emerge. The failure, as you pointed out, of these monkey experiments to actually lead to any meaningful improvements in human health. And now we have a Chinese company who's coming in and saying, hey, we want a foothold in this industry. We want to place this massive quarantine and breeding facility in Florida. This is not going to go well for anyone.
No, the Chinese don't have a great track record with bats, and now they want to do that type of sloppy work in Florida. Not in Wuhan. They want to bring it to Florida with monkeys this time. I don't think DeSantis is going to go for this. They gotta kill this.
I think it's a really good question to ask. How many of these labs are there? Because we saw some of that footage was from Pennsylvania.
Why are we selling land to the Chinese, period? We find too many of these where they purchased ranches, they've purchased farms, and a lot of it has to do, and they purchased them near military bases. What a surprise. But why are we selling land to the Chinese? I had it with Smithfield Meats some years ago. Haven't bought anything from Smithfield in over 10 years when they dropped Paula Deen from their endorsement list. And that cost her a lot of money, and it cost us a lot of money here from some of our charities because she was very, very generous with her charity dollars. There was one particular charity here that she supported that had that lost a $50,000 donation, and that, believe me, that was a hit.
That's crazy. Like $50,000 is something that people depend on, and if they have a plan for the organization, man,
exactly.
That can wipe it out.
Just awful because Paula had used the N-word 30 years ago or something. Just pathetic. And then Smithfield was purchased by a Chinese company. I said, okay, that's it. I'm done. I am done with them. So I haven't purchased any Smithfield meats or eaten any that I know of unless I was served them in a restaurant and didn't know where they got the stuff in the first place. But at the same time, I'm not gonna spend my hard-earned money on supporting an organization that is run by China if I can possibly help it.
Yeah, and I will say there's a lot of things that we can do with our money, and hopefully we're supporting local businesses and local farms. The farmers market here is really amazing for that. But,
I have to wonder about this story about whether, I'm sure that Governor DeSantis, maybe that may have been last night before last when Jesse Waters had this on, whether or not he is aware that they actually have that.
Well, I don't think he does know, because I don't think he would tolerate it.
Mm-mm.
And, he is a governor that I think, or I hope, that will actually do some, help sign some legislation that states that the Chinese are not allowed to buy land there. Because I do know that in Georgia, we have a lot of land owned by the Chinese as well. And that is something that really does need to stop. As Americans, we should not be competing with foreign people for our land. We have a hard enough time, being able to buy a house and being able to buy land as it is. Why should we have to compete with foreign entities as well?
Exactly. Especially people who are really not our friends. Now, I know how the media works, and I know that there's such a thing, called Media Matters, and it's a left-wing group that sits around and watches shows like this, so they can take a little clip and use it to sully our reputation. Yeah, but when you are confronted with a story like this, and they want to, sometimes we paint with a broad brush, but boy, they use the shotgun approach in many cases, and from the standpoint of saying this is, we hate Chinese people. No, we don't. We hate the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. That is what we're talking about, the people who run the place, just like the FBI. We're not necessarily talking about, the FBI agents in the field who are doing a great job every day, putting their lives on the line to protect us. We're talking about the FBI that is run by the head honchos up there in Washington, the big guys from Director Wray right on down, of what a lousy job that they're doing, weaponizing this department that once upon a time was the greatest law enforcement and law-fighting, crime-fighting organization in the world, and highly respected worldwide. And even over in Europe, when they had some sort of a problem, so they'd go to FBI labs and stuff to find out, to get as much help as they possibly could solving their cases. And now we have it being weaponized by this administration and this Department of Justice to go after people that are totally innocent and
that disagree with them
disagree with them politically.
And I think that that's a huge issue. They're not going after rioters, but they sure as heck are going after pro-life people, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And the way they're going about it, it is, you could do this stuff by going to their house with a couple of agents and knocking on the door and say, we'd like to talk to you about something. Will you come downtown and talk with us? It's usually not a request. But they do it so that you could have some sort of a media presence. When you go after a 68-year-old guy who is sitting in his house and has done nothing, but because he didn't appear before the January 6th committee, and you send a SWAT team for him at 5 o'clock in the morning, and including because he lives nearby a lake or a river of some sort, you've got frogmen out there in the lake to make sure he doesn't escape in his rowboat. And how is that for taxpayer dollars? And the fact that CNN just happened to be there that morning.
I was going to say the news tips are kind of the obvious thing too.
What a coincidence!
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
There's more to discuss about this, and coming up next,
we are going to be talking about the good old boys.
Sure are. Of course, Stacy was earlier this week. We'll show you next.
Reckless spending, driving up inflation, higher prices that hurt Georgians.
I'm trying to save $2, and Senator Raphael Warnock votes to spend almost $2 trillion?
$140 to fill my truck. And Senator Warnock voted to allow $140 million to be spent building a resort in Florida?
$15 for burgers. Senator Warnock voted to allow $15 million to be spent on a soccer stadium in New Jersey.
Tell Senator Warnock to stop voting for reckless spending. Stop.
Stop. Please stop.
I don't do it out of obligation. I don't do it because I'm told. I don't do it because I was trained. I don't do it to be bold. I stand for our national anthem because I'm forever grateful to be free. I stand for the anthem to respect those before me. We have wounded warriors who would return only if they could. Doing more for this country than any single person should. Stand up. Their lives were given for you. So as long as the Star-Spangled Banner yet wave, I stand for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
At my core, I'm a runner, but I wasn't always fast. Here in Wrightsville, Georgia, is where I grew up, and I got real fast. I learned discipline, faith in God, and the value of hard work. I learned about sacrificing the things you want in the moment for the future you know you can have if you work hard enough. You might stumble, make mistakes, but you only fail if you give up. The politicians pick American against American, rich versus poor, black versus white. I don't believe in that garbage. I'm a conservative, not because someone told me to be. I'm a conservative because I believe in smaller government, a strong military, and making sure all people have the opportunity to pursue their dreams. My name is Herschel Walker. I'm a kid from a small town in Georgia who's lived the American dream, and I'm ready to fight to keep that dream alive for you too. I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
Go Herschel and go Dogs. As the day after tomorrow, two undefeated teams are playing. Georgia going against Tennessee. I'm glad they're playing it in Athens.
Yeah, I think it's going to be crazy, Bill. I keep seeing everyone. I haven't seen a lot of Tennessee posts, but I've sure seen a lot of Georgia posts.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I know how serious you guys are about your football down here in the South. So
yeah,
I'm sure Athens is going to be wild.
It's a religion.
Yes. It is. It's something else, Bill.
And have your little buckets ready when all that Tennessee orange shows up and you have to toss your cookies. So, nevertheless, but I digress. We were talking about the FBI and all the Department of Justice and how it's been weaponized by this administration. When you have a guy like Mike Lindell who's going out to Hardee's to get some hamburgers and enjoy a meal and is surrounded by the FBI at the drive-through, you know there's a problem.
Absolutely. And, they also just arrested Catherine Engelbright and Greg Phillips, who were the people that were behind 2,000 Mules and getting all of that geo-tracking data for the mules, showing that they were dropping things in drop boxes multiple times a day. And people didn't like that, Bill, turns out.
No, of course not. The truth hurts.
Sure does.
So they're trying to nip it in the bud, shall we say.
They're trying to intimidate these people to shut up, is basically what it comes down to. And there was a great piece by Dinesh D'Souza, and I think we have a clip of that now.
Yeah, Dinesh does the best.
Very disturbing developments in a Texas courtroom where a judge has ordered, this is U.S. District Judge Kenneth Hoyt, has ordered Catherine Engelbrecht and Greg Phillips to show up today, and if they don't reveal the FBI confidential source in the so-called Connick matter, they will be jailed. He says the marshals will be here if you don't comply with what I've ordered you to do. You are going to go to jail, and you're going to stay in jail until you do. Wow. Now, let's look at what's going on here, because all of this started when Catherine and Greg had some public presentations in the forum
Okay.
Well, sorry, we lost audio on that piece, but this is disturbing on so many levels. I think the Gestapo would be very pleased at what our Department of Justice is doing these days.
Yeah, and it's really scary when you speak out as an American citizen, and if you are not doing the bidding of the government, then they're going to weaponize these departments against you, and that's exactly what they've done. And putting these people in jail, they're innocent. We can't even get them to arrest criminals on the street that are committing crimes against people, that are murdering people, but yet...
Well, we arrest them, we just let them go the next day, or a few hours later. Police are still filling out the report when the guy's back on the street.
And they are holding these people and basically saying, until you tell us who your confidential source is, we're not going to let you out.
We're still, speaking of January 6th, that seems to be incessant from the left. We still have people in jail there in the gulag in Washington, D.C. who haven't seen their family in almost 2 years.
It's ridiculous, Bill. I think that this is one of the main reasons that people should not vote for the Democrats. I will say Republicans are not the answer to all your problems. They are not. And no. I will tell you that there are no perfect candidates because there are no perfect people.
That's right. There's only been one, and look what happened to him.
Exactly. So we have to vote Republican to get people in there that will not weaponize. This has not been done before, Bill, in the United States to this level. And these people literally were just at the Capitol. They were probably led in by the Capitol Police. We still don't have all that footage. It's interesting how every time we want to know the truth about something and we know there's cameras, they malfunction or they won't release it, or there's an ongoing investigation, or they have an excuse for everything, Bill. And it's as the American people, we deserve to see that footage. We pay the bills in that building. We pay all of their salaries. We should get to see everything we want.
Yeah, and when Whoopi Goldberg on The View a few weeks ago said something to the effect Ted Cruz. Yep. Was on, and he was talking about the Antifa disturbed riots, and she said, "I don't know what an Antifa riot looks like." I said, "I wish they'd have shown some footage. If nothing else, I wish he'd have brought showed up on his phone and said, okay, let me show you this. These mostly peaceful demonstrations, as we were told, while Kenosha, Wisconsin was burning down, or while they were attacking federal buildings in Portland, Oregon, and shining lasers in the eyes of the federal police officers, some of whom were blinded, maybe permanently, because of it. And I don't know where law enforcement has gone, and that was even when Donald Trump was in office.
But he tried to intervene, and it became a big fiasco. And he's okay, you guys don't want me to have federal troops in your city? I guess we'll pull back out. But they want the chaos. They love it, Bill.
Because it looks so good on camera, whatever looks good for video wise. But they should. I don't know why we have ways of controlling these things. I was wondering why they didn't bring out the fire department with those water cannons and start and fill the tanks with that indelible red ink that you can't wash off, that has to wear off, and it takes weeks. And start spraying the people with that. We also have devices where you could bring up a volume on a particular frequency and cause people's ears to bleed. That'll bring you to your knees like that. You don't need tear gas. You don't need to spend money on that. You can't get away from that stuff. And get rid of these miscreants. It'll be doing the same thing in front of Supreme Court justices' houses that are being demonstrated. It's interesting of all the zip ties that we heard from the guy that broke into Paul Pelosi's house. Oh, we had zip ties just like the people of January 6th. Who else had zip ties just recently? Oh, I think it was the guy that tried to assassinate Judge Kavanaugh. Well, he had zip ties. He had not automatic weapons. He had guns. He had rifles. He had knives. And then they tried to kill Lee Zeldin, running for, it looks like he could become the next governor of New York. Keep your fingers crossed on that one. He gets attacked by a guy with a very sharp knife type device that you hold. I don't know exactly what you call these things, but you hold them in your fist, and he goes up, and he could have hit the carotid artery if Lee hadn't been a little more and quick reaction. And he could, but they took him down. He's released the next day. I think they've rearrested him now simply because of the public outcry. But here's a sitting congressman that was attacked, and that doesn't seem to bother the news media. That story lasted about 15 minutes. A Bernie Sanders supporter goes out and starts shooting up the congressional baseball field, trying to kill all the Republican congressmen and senators that were out on that field, including who now the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. He was in that crowd. Steve Scalise was the one who was injured the most seriously, and it was only through the great skill of some wonderful surgeons that he's still with us, because he had to have multiple operations to fix what was wrong with him when one of those bullets creased his pelvis.
Well, Bill, also, I mean, there was a Waukesha trial, and guess what? There was hardly any coverage of it from, and they had a verdict last week. No one has talked about it.
No. This is the guy that ran his car through the Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin last year, killing a child. I think six people were killed, many others maimed or seriously injured because of this. And but it didn't fit the narrative. It didn't fit the agenda. So that's another story that only got about a day's coverage. And fortunately, he was convicted, and he might even stay behind bars for more than a week or two.
Thank goodness for that. He was bizarre during his trial. So, I mean, he was something else.
Decided to represent himself, and he didn't do anything except keep interrupting the judge. And why she has a patience of Job, because I don't know why she kept tolerating it. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do that. Heck, put him in zip ties and send him over to the next room and watch it on video. He could do a virtual show up.
Did you see that he built a fort during it too? Like,
yeah,
it was so weird.
Like,
he
started
bizarre.
piling up stuff, boxes of stuff around his desk to build this fort around himself. It was just absolutely ridiculous what they put up with this guy. But a Biden voter, so we can't criticize him. But yet we had I think there were something like 540 riots that took place during the summer of 2020, and billions and billions of dollars in damage that was done, and many of these places have not come back. People who have put their life savings and their lives into these buildings, like whether it was a coffee shop, and in fact, a few weeks ago, Laura Ingraham on the Fox News channel did a story, a follow-up that of course the rest of the news media totally ignored. But the coffee shop in Wisconsin, they said they were going to rebuild it and come back, and it's an empty field still 2 years later, and it's just disgusting that this is happening in America, and we're letting people get away with it. I knew we were in real trouble when that mayor of Milwaukee let those people go. Was it Milwaukee where he let the rioters go into the police precinct?
No, this was in Portland, Oregon. Huh? That was Portland, Oregon.
There was one that was Milwaukee too.
I didn't hear about the Milwaukee one, but the one in Portland, Oregon.
But I knew that when this idiot let these people go into it, that told the police precinct, told the police evacuate your building so these people can go in there and tear it down and burn it down. I was like, what country are we living in now?
Well, that's the thing. We're in a situation where they're allowing the mob to rule. The rest of us, we would love to be able to go out and protest, but we got to work, Bill. Like, the people, someone's got to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. Someone's got to pay these elected officials to do nothing.
And what exactly, how does the left actually feel about the police? We know that Stacey Abrams ain't fond of them, and we'll give you a classic Exhibit A next.
First of all, what I can do to make things better is bring people together. I love this country. I believe in peace through strength. If we have no strength, we're gonna have no peace. I believe in backing the blue. I believe in the Constitution. I believe that everybody should have a chance to have their faith. Do we have problems? Yes. Can we solve them? Yes. Georgia is my family. The United States is my family. So I'm gonna fight and take care of them. I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
There's 159 counties in the state of Georgia. And since I got into this race, I've been visiting almost every one of them just to hear from the people. They know I'm a winner. They know that I work. Well, the way I'm different is I'm not a politician, never have been. I'm a country boy that grew up in Georgia. I understand Georgia, and I'm gonna fight for Georgia. We gotta get this country back together. We gotta support our police, we gotta support our military. Most of all, we gotta support our citizens. But what I am gonna do is listen to the people. I'm gonna get out here and I'm gonna work for you. And I say what I'm gonna do and I do what I'm gonna say. And we're gonna make things happen.
No one who is alive today had ever experienced a true pandemic. And I'm hoping that now that this is over, people are going to, recognize that some serious errors were made and not repeat those. That's the best you can get out of it.
So what do you tell those people?
Vote Republican. That's what a lot of them are going to do anyway.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, more than 1 million people transferred over to the Republican Party, I think in 2021 alone. Find out what that number is.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
Getting ready for the first weekend of November, and it's amazing. We're just zipping right along here. Thanksgiving is coming up. What's 3 weeks from today?
Yep.
Yeah, so we still have a lot to be thankful for. And I think after this coming Tuesday, I hope we'll have a lot to be thankful for.
I hope we have the best show on Wednesday.
Yes, sirree.
I'm excited.
Sitting here up in the champagne corks and sending up flares and everything else. And by the way, if you're out and about this weekend, certainly lots to do. If you can't find something to do in Savannah on the weekends and you're a dull person, but the Kiwanis Club of Skidaway Island is having their annual chili cook-off at the Landings, and I'll be out there playing the hits.
Oh, that's fun.
So the DJ is going to be fantastic, and the chili is unbelievably good. It's amazing how many different types of chili there are, and you get to vote on which one. In fact, you can be like a Democrat. You can vote early and often. So many times as you want to.
The only time it's successful is during a chili competition, Bill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
not during the election.
And the weather looks like it's going to be just perfect for it. Last year, they've had this thing for about 25 years now. Last year was the first time they'd ever had a rain out.
Wow.
And it looks like this year they've hit the comeback trail. So it's going to be nice on Saturday. Going to warm up. Well, they have this beautiful venue out at the Landings where we're right on the river. It is really, really nice, and the food's fantastic. They have other stuff for the kids too. I mean, they got hot dogs and hamburgers that you can get there as well. You don't have to have going out and getting 20 or 30 samples of chili. Maybe not be the best thing you ever had. I was apropos nothing, but when I was doing the Georgia Southern Coaches Show, we were in Pocatello, Idaho for the national championship game years back when we were playing Furman, and they had Taste of Idaho in one of these old buildings, and it looked like maybe one of these World War II factories where they made tanks or airplanes or something. This place was huge. This is and Pocatello, Idaho was just gorgeous.
That's my country over there.
And they were having and a portion of this was a chili section, and there were about 100 booths set up for chili. And I was trying a few of them. One of them was absolutely delicious. I didn't bother to look at the sign. And I was really enjoying this. I said, gee, what is this? I looked over. It was rattlesnake. Oh. Now, I'd heard rattlesnake was pretty tasty.
Apparently you love it, though.
I had never tried, but it was, I don't know about rattlesnake by itself, but in chili, good stuff.
Highly recommend, huh?
For real. So, speaking of rattlesnakes, Stacey Abrams thinks she's still the governor of Georgia and was cheated out of the last election, so she's trying it again. And she was in a debate, the second of their two debates with Brian Kemp last Sunday night. And boy, she got the Georgia Sheriff's Association shorts in a wad when she started criticizing them as good old boys.
I think we have a clip of Stacey talking about this at the debate.
Yeah, take a look.
Against Georgia sheriffs that left viewers stunned.
I did not say, and nor do I believe in defunding the police. He is lying again. And I've never said that I believe in defunding the police.
Ms. Abrams on CNN got asked the question, would she defund the police? And she said, yes, we have to reallocate resources. That means defunding the police. Men and women in law enforcement know who is going to be with them, who has had their back and will continue to have their back.
I'm not a member of the Good Old Boys Club. So no, I don't have 107 sheriffs who want to be able to take black people off the streets.
So my question is,
tired of this narrative that, just repeat time after time. Oh, it's people of color who are getting stuff. Oh, it's profiling. When a police call goes out, and let's say it's a bank robbery, and they say it is it's the perpetrator we know was black. Well, they start stopping people that might fit that description, not because they're black, but because they fit the description. If they said it was a white person that did it, they wouldn't be stopping black people. They'd be stopping people like me.
Well, I also think it's interesting. She is saying, okay, I'm not a member of the Good Old Boys Club, so of course I don't have sheriffs, backing me. But I think the interesting thing here is if you are governor, what does that look like? You have just disenfranchised 107 sheriffs in the state you want to represent.
In fact,
what is wrong with her?
In Northeast Georgia, there's a report that Jackson County Sheriff, her name is Janice Mangum. I always thought it was Magnum. I said, boy, that was really appropriate for a sheriff. But Mangum, the second elected female sheriff in the history of Georgia, she told Fox News Digital she found the comments, quote, disgusting and indicative that Abrams didn't care about law enforcement. She said, quote, I don't care as a sheriff of color, as sheriff, what color your skin is. We take an oath to serve and protect people and enforce the laws of the state of Georgia. And that's what we do every day. And it was an insult to the Georgia sheriffs that they are supporting him and all of his law enforcement. I've been in this business for 36 years, and I have never done anything to tarnish my badge. And my fellow sheriffs are good people and who are supporting him. And I just was kind of disgusted to hear it. I don't even know what to say. It's just wrong. It is absolutely wrong. In the neighboring Barrow County, Sheriff Judge Smith agreed with her, said calling the comment a slap in the face to Georgia voters who back the sheriffs in their areas, as well as every officer of every race in his department. He said her comments were vile and disgusting, and it just goes to show that her camp, her team, are vilifying and demonizing law enforcement, and it's not just a dig on sheriffs. It's a dig on every law enforcement officer in the state, whether they support her or not. And at this point, I think she's just grasping at straws. And he was particularly troubled by her comment about good old boys, saying she was essentially slandering cops as white supremacists. Mangum said the media environment has effectively demoralized the law enforcement profession, calling herself humbled and honored to be in her 10th year serving as sheriff. She says she's never seen such negativity in the press since starting her career 36 years ago as a dispatcher. Said we're going to run to danger. When people who want to defund the police call needing help, we're going to run to it. We're not going to run away from it. Our folks go to work every day not knowing if they're going to come home that afternoon. And I do feel like sometimes the media gives us such a bad rap, and we come to work every day trying to do the job to the best of our ability. And right now, every police department is looking for personnel, and they can't find it.
Well, in the comments of Stacey Abrams, she is definitely making their job much more difficult.
Yes.
Making people hate the police that much more. And it's not helpful. If you're the governor and you want to be the governor of a state, you have to represent everyone. And I think that people forget that. And law enforcement is a big part of our lives. It always has been. And I'll tell you what, when I call 911, I want them to show up for me, Bill. I don't have anyone else to call. So I don't know what these people are thinking, talking about defunding the police, because I bet you if they're in trouble, they're not calling their next door neighbor. They're calling 911.
And they're not calling DFACs. They're not calling social workers. So put your helmets on. I'm going to tell you another war story because of the lack of personnel, not only because our sheriff here, Johnny Wilcher, in the Chatham County Sheriff's Department is like 180 sheriffs short, deputies short. And he said the job starts at $42,000 and all the overtime you want. So you could make pretty nice living by going to work. But he can't find those people. And the 9/11 people are having trouble getting personnel these days as well. Because my wife was just in a minor fender bender a few weeks ago, and I called 911. It rang for 3 minutes because I timed it. 3 minutes. Nobody ever answered. I called the Savannah police regular number. It rang for 2 minutes, and nobody ever answered. I finally got somebody at the Chatham County police department, and fortunately they were aware of the accident and had and sent somebody. The Savannah police showed up at long last. But 3 minutes to 911 without an answer. Had this been a genuine life or death emergency, I may not have lived through it.
Well, exactly, Bill. When I think you also have to look at yes, it's wonderful that they're offering all the overtime you want. However, the police's job is very intensive. They're put in dangerous situations all the time. They put their lives at risk all the time. Do I think that they should be working 80 or 90 hours a week? I don't. I think it wears people out. I think it makes it so they're not having a good quality of life. And we should really, this is a problem that has to be solved. And her rhetoric, Stacey Abrams' rhetoric, is not okay. People should not accept the fact that she, is saying, oh, I never said defund the police. I wish that they could pull video. I wish that they could have 3 video clips that they have ready to go that each person that's on the debate stage can have, so they can play it and say, answer for me, Stacey, why you would say that on CNN.
And once again, you have to learn how to speak their language. Maybe she didn't say defund. I never said defund the police, but when she says that money ought to be allocated to go elsewhere, as the Governor Kemp pointed out, and he is the governor, said, that's saying defund the police. You have to learn their language, just like when the Dalai Lama said, your taxes will not go up one dime. They didn't. They went up $5,000. They didn't go up a dime.
Yep,
so you have to learn how to speak Democratese.
Yeah, I don't like that, Bill. I don't like it at all. Well, and I think the other thing is I'm sorry, I think it's, I think that they live in a utopian world that none of us understand. But the fact that they want to reallocate, I think that's another word, or reimagine, I think that's another one of their favorite words.
Sure is.
And the police departments, I'm sorry, I don't necessarily think having social workers be involved, I don't think that's helpful.
I think what we ought to do, Brittany, is all these people that are saying that, whether it's what's her face, Congresswoman Presley, who are among those.
Or Cori Bush is also.
I think they ought to take their. Their police detail away from them and give them social workers.
Absolutely, I think
See how that works.
If you advocate
and don't
for
carry
this
guns,
stuff,
don't carry any of those evil weapons.
Well, that's the thing. If you're advocating for this stuff, then guess what? You're not allowed to have police either.
Yeah, there you go. So, I think we've solved the world's problems here today.
We'll be back next week to solve more and also talk more about election stuff. We're hoping we have some exciting news coming Wednesday morning for us. We'll wait and see, but
Enjoy
you guys need
weekend.
to get out there and vote. Check us out.
We're going down the home stretch. Hope to see you at the Chili Cook-Off on Saturday. Starts at 11 o'clock on Saturday at the Landings, goes till about 2, so come on out and enjoy it. Enjoy the great music. DJ's going to be fantastic. See you then.
I love it. Check us out on YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, or granewsmedia.com. You can also catch us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tell all your friends. God bless. Have a great weekend.